On Tech News Today, Google takes a leap into augmented reality. Plus, Amazon's rolling out more retail locations. Dropbox usernames and passwords get hacked, and Android L drops tomorrow. We've got some details for you coming up next.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today for Tuesday, October 14th, 2014. This episode is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it fast and easy to create your own professional website or online portfolio. For a free 2-week trial and 10% off, go to squarespace.com and use the offer code TNT. And by Prosper. Prosper is a peer-to-peer lending marketplace which connects people who are looking to borrow money with those who have money to lend. Visit prosper.com/twit and receive a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. Tech News Today is the show where we talk about the tech news with the journalists who report it. Welcome to the show. I'm Mike Elgan. And Jason Howell, how the heck are you? The big day is coming. Can you feel it? The L version of Android is forth.
Looking forward to it, of course. Yeah. At this point, I just want to know. But there are signs pointing to possibly tomorrow. But, you know, every October, it's the same. Yeah. Every October, Android, fans just every single day they read into everything and say, oh, that adds up to the number 5. It must mean that version L is, Half-Life 3 is confirmed. Well,
so there are two things going on. There are the rumors you're referring to, and there's also a report that just came out like 15 minutes ago. We're going to get to that later in the show, and it's looking pretty good. Where do you land on what the L stands for at this point? Licorice, lollipop?
Yeah, it's got to be between those two. Some people are saying lion based on this. I think it's a Nestle candy bar that no one's ever heard of. So I'd be really surprised in that. But yeah, I could see licorice. I think the guy, I can't remember his name, but the guy who was out at the Googleplex repositioning all the statues on the lawn, he had a couple of hints on Google Plus that pointed to licorice. So he could just be trolling everybody. Would Google give him the permission to kind of tease this? Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? I was rooting for lifesavers, but
yeah, it's a good one too.
Yeah. All right. Well, we also have with us Joe Panettieri because it is Tuesday. Welcome to you, Joe Panettieri.
Mike, thanks for having me. I was scrambling to find some Twizzlers over here just in honor of licorice, but could not go grab them before the camera came on me.
Joe, why are there 500 compact discs in your office?
I'm glad you asked, Mike.
Well, it's in the dock, so.
So about 2 weeks ago, there were about 150 CDs collecting dust in my house. And for some crazy reason, for anyone who tuned in Tech News Today, maybe about a week ago, I think I mentioned I picked up 350 used compact discs, all classic rock, off Craigslist for pennies on the dollar. And the 500, only about 150 of which you can see behind me. The rest are on a wall that are off camera. My son and I alphabetized them over the weekend, which was a little bit like, for me, going through CDs, it was a little bit like maybe my dad and me going through albums and looking at the covers. So it was sort of cool to see my son's reaction to each one of these classics. Everything from Aerosmith to Led Zeppelin and so on.
Well, here in the wine country, we like to use CDs to scare away birds off of vineyards and also use them as coasters so we don't stain the nice wood floor that we put, the wood tables that we put our wine glasses on. But I'm glad to see you have so many. And I also saw some amazing sculptures made out of CDs when I was in Spain, and they shimmer in the sunlight, very, very breathtaking. So anyway, so Joe, we got some late breaking news from Banking Innovations' Ian Carr about 10 minutes before the show began. He's been on the show before. We couldn't get him for this show, but apparently PayPal is in talks to buy Square. Now, PayPal, as we know, is being spun out of eBay. That sort of separation is probably going to be complete next year. But that would be an interesting turn of events because with all these newcomers coming into the sort of online and mobile payment space,
sure,
we're already seeing potential consolidation. Do you think that this will be approved? I mean, it seems like it probably will, but can you think of any reason why this wouldn't be?
Well, Mike, I have two reactions before we get to sort of the approved or not approved. Number one reaction is it's great to see PayPal considering moves even while the spin-out move is underway. So it's not like PayPal's business has paused while they're focusing on their own spin out, they are still moving forward and trying to figure out what moves they need to do on the chessboard going forward. So that's number one. Number two, this chatter emerges as Apple Pay, particularly this week, talk about Apple Pay gets louder and louder. So again, it's great to hear PayPal part of this conversation and with Square. Will a deal come down? I have no idea. I mean, I've read various reports. Some of the reports say, hey, you know what, this is just early discussions, and some people are denying that the discussions are even happening. So from my vantage point, breaking news, I don't know if it's legit as to whether or not the deal will happen, but I'm happy to at least hear chatter about PayPal at this critical time in its history.
Oh, that's a great point. Let's get into the news proper. Google plans to invest heavily in a secretive company called Magic Leap. The company makes both hardware and software that work together to create a photorealistic user interface the company calls cinematic reality. According to an exclusive by Recode, Google is leading what could be a $500 million round of funding. Sebastian Anthony writes for Extreme Tech and PC Mag, and he joins us now. Welcome to you, Sebastian.
Hi, Mike.
Now, what do we know about Magic Leap's forthcoming products and the technology behind them?
We know very, very little. We don't know if they're at the point where it has been productized. The investment would suggest that they're getting pretty close to a product. But it should be pointed out that there are similar, NVIDIA has tried similar technologies, but it's been around for a few years, but nothing has really bubbled to the surface. But this investment would suggest that there is a product coming at some point, but we don't know when, but hopefully soon.
So, Sebastian, in terms of what Google is calling this or what the company is calling this, we're hearing the term cinematic reality. Is this just augmented reality or virtual reality warmed up for us, warmed over?
Yeah, it looks, from what we've seen, it looks identical to augmented reality. If you read some of the few interviews that the CEO has given, he uses all sorts of hyperbolic phrases about how this is much superior to everything that has come before. So that's why they've coined a new term called cinematic reality. But it does just seem to be a new approach to doing augmented reality. But it doesn't, it has cinematic quality, but it's augmented reality from what we can tell.
Yeah, as far as I can tell, people come out of demos, the few people who have been given demos, first of all, they're completely blown away. And second of all, it seems like what they are able to do is two things that are really interesting. One is very high resolution augmented reality imagery. And the second is that they're able to place it very precisely. And so that combination could be very, very powerful. And one can imagine some sort of headset that is somewhere between Oculus Rift and Google Glass, where you can, of course, see have a natural view of the actual reality with something superimposed on it. And we've seen all kinds of demos and kind of images that have been shown to illustrate this concept. So it looks like it could be very, very cool. Now, what are the benefits for Google in this investment? Would they get like first dibs on the technology? Would they have access to the plans? I mean, why would they invest in this like this?
It would seem, I mean, similar to Facebook investing in Oculus Rift or buying in that case. It's still not entirely clear where these investments are going. I think it's because I think we had someone comment on the site today that, virtual reality is the same as last year's 3D printing. It's in vogue at the moment. It's clearly after 30 or 40 years of clunky headsets that it might finally happen in the next couple of years. But we still don't know what it will result in. But companies like Facebook and Google, they rely on eyeballs. They rely on people actually looking and using at their services. If there is suddenly this shift towards virtual reality and away from web browsers and smartphones, then these companies need to be ready. What Google intends to do with augmented reality is hard to guess. Google Glass is also augmented reality. It's nowhere near cinematic reality, but it's the same kind of idea in that, if at the moment you only look at Google on your smartphone, but with augmented reality, you could be looking at Google everywhere you walk, when you're sitting down, when you're talking to your friends. You could be looking at Google all the time, which is obviously a great idea for Google, which sells advertising, and they want your eyeballs all the time. But the next few years, I think, will be very interesting to see where Facebook and Google goes. But it's a guess right now.
Yeah. Hey, Sebastian, building on that point of sort of the Google versus Facebook here, can you refresh our memory? Let's start with Facebook with the Oculus deal. So they made that deal earlier this year, multi-billion. I think it was a $2 billion buyout of Oculus. How far along is that headset and that technology? Is it for gaming? How would you describe what it's for today? And then compare and contrast that. Any clues you may have in terms of how far along Magic Leap may be with its technology and now this Google investment.
Sure. So Oculus Rift is on schedule, I believe, for 2015. That's irrespective of the Facebook acquisition. Facebook has said they're not going to interfere with those plans. So we will still see, I think, an Oculus Rift headset in 2015. What we'll see after that, I don't think anyone knows. I'm not sure if Facebook knows. I think Facebook is interested in Oculus Rift because it is possibly the next big thing. It might be the next big interface, the next big way to get customers and eyeballs. Magic Leap, I'm sure, is, I would guess, a year or two behind Oculus Rift. We don't even know what form Magic Leap is. The one New York Times first look said it wasn't even the size of, it wasn't small enough to wear on your head. It was a large device. So I think Magic Leap is still a few years away. But again, what Google plans to do with it, I don't know. I don't think anyone knows at this point.
And that article you're referring to was by John Markoff, and that was in July. And that was a great article if you're curious about this company. Now, this sounds like, a kind of a company that we're not familiar with. We're not familiar with their technology, really. And yet they have more than 100 employees. They're based in Florida. They're getting well-funded. They already did a $50 million round earlier this year. So it sounds like the tiny number of people who are let into the tent there are coming out very impressed with it, including Google. And of course, they're only leading this round. There are going to be other investors, the usual suspects probably in Silicon Valley. So we'll be watching this very carefully, and hopefully they'll come out with something really, really cool that we can all use sooner rather than later. But it doesn't sound like it. It sounds like it's going to be later. Sebastian Anthony is at extremetech.com, and you can follow him at Mr. Seb. That's MRSEB. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Thanks, Mike.
All right. Well, just a sec. We have another Amazon update, but first, Squarespace is a great place to build a website. I've told you that many times, and now I wanted to talk to Joe about this because, of course, Joe has a new website, and it's a beautiful website, of course, because you built it on Squarespace. But Joe, can you tell us a little bit about your experience with using Squarespace?
Yeah, sure. I'd be happy to. I guess I'll raise 4 key points with Squarespace. I think, number one, we've built our overall IT media platform on Squarespace, the After Nines website, which continues to build out with more and more content. And the key social integrations are all there, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, et cetera. So those plugins are all really nicely handled. Number 2, the site development. Mike, the pages, the images, the layout, it really is drag and drop. Novices can do it. I learned Squarespace literally overnight. It truly is for novices, but it brings the power of a true website to you. I'd say number 3 is the templates. You're not forced to pay for templates. You sign up for the subscription, and you can choose between multiple website templates and then customize them to your needs. In the After Nines case, we customized it to a classic black and white feel, sort of a timeless feel, and it delivered. And finally, on the Squarespace, 4 points in my mind. The integration with multimedia is fantastic. For instance, after TNT is broadcast today, we'll run a link to the archive on our website, and it looks like it's living right there. It looks like it's playing right there. It looks like it's built into our site. So it's been a great experience for us. We've been on it for about 2 months, and we continue to scale rapidly with it.
That's awesome, and I've had the same experience. I think I first learned about it when Leo did it, Nad, on Twit. And I was just like, oh, I got to try this, and I was just blown away. It's so easy to use that it's actually thrilling to use, because you're just like, you do these simple, easy things, and the result is just breathtakingly professional and sophisticated. So I really like it. And of course, you can manage your website or blog from a mobile device with the tools that Squarespace will provide you for free once you sign up. It sounds expensive, just $8 a month, but that includes a free domain name if you sign up for a year. So start a free 2-week trial now with no credit card required and start building your website. when you decide to sign up for Squarespace, make sure you use the offer code TNT. That'll get you 10% off, and that will also show your support for Tech News Today. We appreciate that, and we appreciate Squarespace's support of this show as well. Remember that a better web awaits, and it starts with your new Squarespace website. Well, Joe, what's happening with Amazon? They just launched a couple of new retail locations.
Yeah, the big e-tailer is going retail, so to speak. And then at the same time, you have Google making some counter moves. So it's sort of a counterpoint play here. Let's first look at Amazon, then we'll bring up the Google angle. The Amazon angle involves retail locations, and I use the word plurally, in, let's see, San Francisco, Sacramento, and New York. And each one of those locations, Mike, is going to be for a different use, so to speak. I think the West Coast locations are really for showrooming, to go in and see the Amazon devices. It sounds like the East Coast location, the New York location, Mike, is more for going in and picking up things that you've already ordered. So that's sort of the Amazon play here. At the same time, yesterday we heard Google talk about Amazon being its biggest rival now. Eric Schmidt was saying that. And now Google is shaking up its so-called Express offer. The Express offer, as you recall, Mike, is the counter to Amazon Prime. And Google is really expanding that, simplifying the brand, and trying to make sure that they can make deliveries in more and more regions really rapidly. So it's a counterpoint move in terms of who can get closest to the customer, both online and face-to-face.
It's a fascinating trend because, of course, Amazon and Google both exist as a big alternative to the world of physical stores and physical delivery and all that kind of stuff. Well, not Amazon; they take advantage of delivery, of course, but Amazon has always been positioned as an alternative to brick and mortar retailers, and they've been accused of driving many out of business because of their convenience and great delivery service. And yet, there's no substitute for reaching out and touching someone. And it's just crazy to see this. I mean, I'm especially perplexed by Google's desire to deliver things. I mean, that does not scale, and that doesn't seem like a Google business at first blush. Of course, they can apply their powerful algorithms to optimize delivery, and Amazon, of course, has, as we've reported on the show, been working on same-day delivery on a whole bunch of different ways, one of which is to have the products they think you're going to order already in the truck, so that when you do order it, according to their algorithms, they'll just, on their route, on their way, delivering things, they'll just drop it off, and it'll be 3, 4, 5 hours after you ordered it, which is kind of miraculous. But I just think it's a fascinating turn of events, and I think I think the killer combination ultimately is going to be, you have to have a physical presence, and you have to have a great online presence, and that's true whether you started out physical or started out online. And I think it's going to be a huge advantage for them to have for Google to have delivery, for Amazon to have pickups. They're also going to kind of warehouse a lot of these products and have them in-house, not just for pickup, but also for quicker delivery. So it's, they're really going to take advantage of that space.
Yeah, and I'm curious to see these Amazon stores. Are they trying to deliver like an Apple store experience? Now, I'm not talking about the Genius Bar and all the IT support help. I'm just talking about go in and get the Amazon product experience. Prime example, Mike, I went into an AT&T store when the Amazon Fire smartphone first came out. I couldn't find it. There was no one there to demo it for me. The product wasn't even in the store. Not that I would have bought on the spot, but I was at least an intrigued potential buyer. And I think Amazon wants to control that experience much more closely going forward. I don't think they quite trust third-party retailers with their products.
And they shouldn't. And I think it's a great idea. People go in, part of, Apple accomplishes so much with their stores. First of all, they're the most profitable retail stores ever on a square foot basis, partly because Apple products are very profitable and expensive. And they've been super successful. But what they've been also able to do is having all that presence in all these malls and in downtown locations. People wandering by go in and sort of fondle all the pretty products in the back of their mind, thinking, I want to get one of those one of these days. And when it comes time to buy another device, they've already been sort of programmed with the imagery around Apple, and Amazon wants a piece of that. They want that same experience. They want people to go in and, people hear about the Fire phone. They sort of heard of the Kindle. They've heard of the Kindle Fire tablets and so on. And once they go in and see how cool it is, and here's how you download movies, and here's that you get the tech support and the little human in the box and so on, people might think the same way and think, well, next time I'll get an Amazon device.
Yeah. I think the big opportunity here for Amazon in particular is with the tablets. Last numbers I saw, first quarter of this year, I think Kindle, the tablet line, basically had 1.9% market share. The lineup from Amazon just has not been strong. And if you got that out into a face-to-face setting, an Amazon store setting, and by the way, promoted sort of the parental control offerings, the capabilities there, so that your kids could use this device in a safe manner, I think they could be picking up sales and some market share.
That's a really great point, Joe, because the parental controls and the offerings that they have for children are a real differentiator for Amazon. It's just super easy to just give your kids all kinds of content that they can choose themselves after you've decided what it is they can choose from. So it's a great offering, and of course they're going to be building that into their TV box and so on. So they're really a brilliant company. They're really strategic and they think long term, and this is another example of that. Well, an anonymous Pastebin user posted hundreds of Dropbox usernames and passwords. The hacker claims to have stolen the data from nearly 7 million accounts. And now they're asking for Bitcoin donations to crowdsource the caper. Dwight Silverman is with the Houston Chronicle and joins us now. Welcome to you, Dwight Silverman.
Hello, how are you doing today, Mike?
I'm doing great, thank you. And sorry, we're running a little late, and I told you to be on like 15 minutes ago. So thank you for hanging in there. Now, where did the hacker get these usernames and passwords?
Well, that's not exactly clear. Dropbox says it wasn't them, that their servers were secure and that they were not hacked into. In this blog post that Dropbox is doing, they're saying that the logins and passwords appear to come from third-party services that and then were run against logins at Dropbox. They say that they have technology that looks for sketchy behavior and then changes the passwords or tells folks to reset the passwords. And what ultimately happens is, in theory, you're protected. There have been some indications, though, that testing some of these that have been released have indicated that they are indeed live. But again, Dropbox says they didn't originate there. Dropbox is telling people, well, what you really should do, if you're concerned, is obviously change your password. Don't use the same password at every site that you use, and use their two-factor verification, and that you'll be fine. And there's a line in the blog post that says, "Your stuff is safe."
Hey, Dwight.
Yeah.
So in other words, here's a hypothetical scenario. Basically, it sounds like what Dropbox is saying is, hypothetically, let's imagine we all had Gmail accounts. In theory, the hacker went and took our usernames and passwords by hacking maybe Gmail or some other system, and then applied those usernames and passwords to Dropbox to see if they matched up, and then lifted those services. Is that the way to think of it here?
That's what Dropbox is speculating. You know, there's no way to know for sure what's going on, and we all know that there are places on the dark net where you can find and buy large caches of logins and passwords, and you can obviously speculate that what has happened is that someone has taken some of these and run it with a script against Dropbox, and then Dropbox apparently, when they spotted some of this activity, alerted folks and reset passwords, and that's good security practices. But the issue becomes, I think, one both of, has Dropbox done enough to really keep its users safe, and there's a large amount of responsibility on the individual user to make sure that they follow good practices. Do not use the same password everywhere, which people do, and be sure you use two-factor authentication when it's available, which can be a pain in the butt, but it certainly can help keep you more secure.
Now, this reminds me and sort of suggests a trend. It reminds me of the iCloud controversy, the Snapchat hack we reported recently.
Snapchat, right, from last week.
Yeah. And now this, essentially what they have in common is that the initial story is, oh, wow, that iCloud's been hacked, Snapchat's been hacked, Dropbox's been hacked. And then right away it's like, oh, no, we weren't hacked. It's these third-party other places. We are secure. Your data's secure with us. It's just that all that data's out there for somebody else's fault. And what's the responsibility here for Dropbox in terms of their API? Should they be blamed for this, or should they be given a free pass when this sort of thing happens through a third party? Same goes for Snapchat.
Well, in the case of Dropbox, it's not necessarily an API. It's really just it's very simple security. It's a login and a password they found these elsewhere. Hey, let's try them over here. It's not an API. In the case of Snapchat, it was an API that third-party apps were using in a way that they were not supposed to. In fact, Dropbox asks Google and Apple when it finds apps like this to take them down, and they were doing that. So Snapchat is kind of working on a more public API that's safer, and that's probably the right approach there. In terms of Dropbox's case, I'm not quite sure what more they could do. You know, if you've got a huge cache and you run them against any service, you're probably going to get some hits. And it's just the nature of using passwords. Frankly, I'll be glad when we have a technology that's easy to use and gets us away from passwords altogether.
Yeah, I think all of us would breathe a sigh of relief there.
Please hurry.
So, Dwight, let me ask you the obvious question here in terms of the other shoe potentially dropping. So let's assume I'm that hacker and I've got this huge cache of usernames and passwords. I've already targeted Dropbox with that to see which accounts I can get into. Don't I move on to Box next and then the other file sharing services? Isn't that a next natural step? And if so, are those file sharing services sort of raising an alert right now saying change your passwords?
Sure, I think so. And you know, if you have any services where you use the same passwords at all of them, you should obviously change that. If two-factor authentication is available, you should take advantage of that. I like how Apple is aggressively pushing its users to adopt two-factor authentication, and they were doing that actually before the own iCloud hack, which was just a brute force attack. You know, it was not necessarily anything particularly sophisticated. So I think that you know, the industry is moving towards changing behavior, but it is a very tough way to go. And I think that, you know, people think that they're safe online, but if they if they continue to have bad practices, they're vulnerable.
Dwight Silverman is at blog.cron.com/techblog, and you can follow him on.
Yes, sir.
And you can follow him on Twitter at @dsilverman, and I insist that you do so. It's an awesome Twitter account to follow. Thank you so much, Dwight Silverman, for joining us.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, take care. Well, Joe, it looks like we're getting a little love from Russia coming through via Windows.
Yeah, lots of love. Call it a group hug, will you? You know, the whole situation with Russia to me is getting scary in that I feel like we are in a digital war with them. It feels like World War III is happening right now in a digital sense. The latest story involves Russian hackers using a bug in Microsoft Windows to spy on several Western governments, along with NATO and the Ukrainian government. And now that's according to today's New York Times. And so you'd think, wow, the New York Times did this big investigative report. Actually, not really. They basically took a third-party report and dove into it. So this is now publicly available information from Eyesight Partners, which is a security consulting firm down in the Texas area. And Mike, the nuggets of information coming out of this report are quite upsetting and big cause for concern, I'm sure, for President Obama and the rest of the U.S. government.
Absolutely. And this, you know, these hacks from Russia sort of indicate their obsessions, just as the Chinese and American hacks indicate our respective obsessions. For example, China is obsessed with stealing everybody's intellectual property to sort of kickstart their economy in every possible way. The U.S. is obsessed with counterterrorism, and Russia is obsessed with improving its standing geopolitically and expanding and becoming more like the Soviet Union was, more influence over Eastern Europe and so on. One of the great things about this, one of the little nuggets of information that is really kind of fun, is that the encoded references inside this hack to the sci-fi story Dune, which is why, by the way, Eyesight Partners called it Sandworm. It's called the hacker group, the most recent hacker group, Sandworm. But yeah, it's you know, this is the type of thing that is made possible by this particular bug. But another interesting fact is that Eyesight believes that this is the only use of this particular exploit that has been detected anywhere. That doesn't mean it's the only time it's ever been used, but it's the only one that they're aware of.
Yeah, you know, and the obvious conclusion here, you know, the first leap conclusion involves, oh, this must be somehow related to the U.S. versus Russia with the whole Ukraine situation. Well, read the New York Times story closely and the report closely from Eyesight Partners. And basically these hacks, they date back to 2009, Mike. So this isn't something about an invasion over the summer or, political lines being drawn last spring. This is dating back to 2009.
Yeah, absolutely. And that pretty much is when the sort of the new aggressive Russia foreign policy really started ramping up, the one that you mentioned. And so in any event, I guess it's kind of inevitable. Russia, of course, is a country with a whole lot of brilliant programmers and hackers. And so I guess this sort of thing is truly inevitable. Well, just a sec, we have some follow-ups for you, one of which we promised earlier about Android L. But first, I want to tell you about Prosper. Prosper is a company that can loan you, where you can get a loan. Basically, a really, really, really good loan. In 72 hours, you could have $35,000 to cover your needs. You could pay off your credit cards. You could start a business. You could start a home improvement project, remodel your kitchen. And all you have to do is fill out an easy online application, provide a few details, and then you see a rate almost instantly. Prosper offers low fixed rates, unsecured personal loans, no collateral required, and has multi-year terms available. I think this is a really great alternative to crowdsourcing on one of the crowdsourcing sites, simply because when you do crowdfunding, you have to spend a lot of time. You have to make a video. You have to build the site. You have to manage all of the things you're going to give to the people who invested. It's not an investment. The people who contributed to your crowdfunding, and that's just like a separate business just to manage all that. Whereas with this, you can get a straightforward loan, and you can spend all your time and effort building your business, building your product, inventing your product, doing all the things you would normally do with a crowd-funded project. So Prosper has more than 2 million members and over $1 billion in funded loans. Just go to prosper.com/twit to check your rate instantly without affecting your credit score. Very important. You can check it out. You can kick the tires and see how it works for you without affecting your credit score. So for a limited time, Prosper is offering Twit fans a $50 Visa prepaid card when you get a loan. So go to prosper.com/twit, and that's a special site just for our audience. Up to $35,000 in just 3 days and a $50 Visa prepaid card. Go to prosper.com/twit. Facebook has added stickers, essentially a kind of post-verbal communication system for people too lazy to use words. Stickers have long been available in Facebook chat, but now they can be used in comments on Facebook.com. The social network has a variety of themes such as Power Rangers, Comedy Chickens, and various sports teams which can be downloaded. And the backlash on Facebook has already begun. Well, the new Android L version is expected to hit tomorrow. Forbes.com is reporting that the Nexus 9, which is codenamed Volantis and made by Motorola, will also be announced tomorrow in a Google blog post, and it'll be the first device to run Android L. The tablet will be available for pre-order on October 17th and available for purchase on November 3rd, according, again, to Forbes. Now, Google rolled out 3 charming new ads. They're very short and very charming for the Android L launch. Let's have a look at those, Jason.
We watching all 3?
Yeah, all 3.
Oh, boy. Okay, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're using the Androidify characters. Like it. Of course, I'm partial because all that Android's character art is also from that source. Here we go with the second one. I love it. I mean, the only thing that really makes you know that it's Android really is just the last little logo there.
And I think this one, this third one, I think is a reference to Shamu. Check it out.
I bet you that's a ringtone on the upcoming version. Love it. Hey, awesome. You don't see Android commercials. I love this.
That's right.
These are great. They're really well done.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
It screams South Park to me.
Oh, totally it does.
I love it.
Yeah, it completely does.
Well, in other news, scientists at the University of California, Irvine have launched a smartphone app to crowdsource astronomy. They claim that the collective user base will constitute the most powerful telescope in the world. The app is called The app is called Crayfis, which stands for Cosmic Rays Found in Smartphones. The app, which is currently in beta, will use phones to detect cosmic rays somehow. I'm curious how they do that. Then the data will be sent back to a central server. The point is to find out where on Earth there are spikes in radiation from cosmic rays so scientists can finally unlock the mystery about where the heck they come from. Well, our TNT fan of the day is Haywood Jablom in New Zealand, who says he listens to TNT at work with the help of a hidden Bluetooth speaker. Check this out. That's really kind of an interesting, no cables, inexpensive. I mean, it works.
Okay.
I think that's one of those headphones you use when you're like in a loud area when you're using a jackhammer or something.
I see. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, sort of a homemade Bluetooth headphone. Very cool. Well, how do you watch or listen to TNT? Just record a video or take a picture of your setup and post it on Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it. And that is the tech news today. Now, Joe Panettieri, before we go, you wrote a really, really interesting story about Wells Fargo and a little sort of revolution that's brewing there.
Yeah, it could be a revolution. It could be nothing, but it could be something big. The situation over at Wells Fargo is interesting in that a branch office employee sent an email to the CEO, and he basically requested a $10,000 raise and backed it up with all this financial information about the company in terms of why he deserved a $10,000 raise. But Mike, wait, there's more. He didn't just send it to the CEO. Apparently, he CC'd 200,000 people in the organization and said they all deserve $10,000 raises too. Now, obviously, there's the IT angle. Number one, how did this guy string together so many work group and user group lists to send a 200,000 person email throughout the company? And number two, his math is quite intriguing in terms of why Wells Fargo can afford this. And listen, I am not an advocate of across the board raises for everyone just because. But on the other hand, I think the story brings up some key inflection points about U.S. wage rates and also the power of IT and how employees can harness that power to start a global discussion.
That's a really great point. And I'm also not a fan of CCing 200,000 people. Please, folks, don't try this at home. It is not a good idea.
At least do a blind CC, right?
Right. Yeah. You know that 60,000 of those people are going to reply all and say, I agree. Right. So talk about your IT nightmares. Well, Joe, thank you so much for joining us every Tuesday as our co-anchor. Really appreciate it. Great stuff as always. And give us a quick plug about your site.
Quick plug about the site, after9s.com covers basically everything you need to know in the IT industry starting at 9:01 daily. And we never say if that's East Coast or West Coast, just so people come to the site. And traffic's building nicely. We've already launched a newsletter, and I've been doing a little bit of a shout-out teaser on this show that we're up to something new and cool for Q4 as well. And if you check our homepage, we will indicate that a few CEOs in the industry already know what we're up to, and some more are knocking on our door. So stay tuned.
Wonderful. Well, thanks again. We'll see you next Tuesday.
Thank you.
All right. Well, you can subscribe to Tech News Today on Stitcher, iTunes, YouTube, Feedly, Yahoo, RSS, and many other options. Just choose your favorite at twit.tv/TNT. And again, that's both video and audio. You can take your pick. You can follow us on Twitter. Tech News Today TV is our Twitter name. And please send us your thoughts and opinions. Comment on Twitter or Google Plus using the hashtag Tech News Today, and we'll find that. And you can send email to TNT@twit.tv or call us at 260-TNT-SHOW. And don't miss our evening newscast, Tech News Tonight at 4 p.m. Pacific tonight and every weeknight right here on the Twit Network. My name is Mike Elgan. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you tomorrow.